Happy early spooky season, everyone. This is my cool skull candle. My son picked it out. Ooh, that is waxy. I gotta put that down carefully. It is hot. It is warm. Marco Cardavox Academy here, and I'm doing my second ever album review. This is The Axe Forgets, The Tree Remembers by Carcosa. Now, I know I said the next album review I was going to do was Lorna Shore's recent release, but I want to give that one some time. And I'm actually a pretty big fan of Carcosa. I like Carcosa quite well. And I'm hyped because I'm going to see them. They're on tour with Mental Cruelty, Face Yourself, and of course, Signs of the Swarm. I'm going to see them on Sunday. So it just seemed appropriate because this album came out. Now, I've been lucky enough to have Johnny on the channel more than a few times. He's helped out with a vocal contest. We've done some co-reactions. We've talked at length about his voice, and so I'm excited to dig into it. Now, a real quick reminder about how these work. So normally, as many of you know on this channel, I am predominantly a vocal educator. I teach people how to go, safely and efficiently so they don't hurt themselves, and they can follow their metal vocal dreams. But today, I kind of move away from being the vocal coach and I move into the space of being a metal enthusiast, which I am, which is kind of fun because oftentimes, metal as work can get boring. So metal for fun is fun. And so what I do is I listen to the whole album, first time listen all the way through, right? Start to finish. And then at the end of each song, I'll just talk about my feelings just quickly, 1, maybe 2 minutes. I give each song a score, 1 through 10. I know some people don't like scoring systems, but I think they're fun. And then at the end, we see what the score is and I give my final thoughts and I give more of an in-depth review at the end. So this is mostly listening with a little bit of stuff at the end. And that's all I know. So I'm pretty excited about it. I do have some ideas about this album. I know that, I can't remember where I saw it on Facebook or Reddit or something, but I know that Johnny said that in this album, a lot of the lyrical content is, addressing very difficult times in his past. I haven't read the lyrics, so I don't know what those times are. It'll be interesting to see if we can figure out what they are, and as always, we appreciate artists putting their more vulnerable side out there because it really is to our benefit. They get the ability to tell their story and we get the ability to kind of learn from it. So kind of cool. We'll see how that works. I do want to talk about this artwork eventually because this artwork is sick, but let's go ahead. Let's do that soon. Let's just get right into the album. This is the first track, Proscenium. I don't know how to say it. Proscenium. Here we go. Huh. Huh. There's some really cool vocal production here. Oh, shoot. It looks like the song changed, and I was not aware that it changed. I'm just going to let it go, and I'll talk about the two songs at the same time, because they're clearly leading into each other. Yes. Okay. All right, this is a very blendy album. This is a very blendy album. I just kind of want to keep playing. Okay, it's cool. So, like I said, I'm going to keep my mid album review short, but I just want to give you some of my thoughts. So this album, it's been a little while since I listened to Carcosa, but this album feels very different. This album feels very different in that there is, I'm not saying Carcosa has never been ambient. I'm not saying anything like that, but I feel like at least with these first two tracks, they are very highly focused on soundscapes and strategically built walls. Now, when I'm talking about strategically built walls, what I mean is that it's not, as somebody who really loves atmospheric black metal, sometimes people just tremolo pick and crank the reverb and there you go. That's fine. But there were moments where, you could hear that the riff, the guitar riff would have a pause and they'd kind of cut the reverb, or they'd cut the guitar, I should say, a little bit so that the ambience in the background could shine through but it didn't sound choppy. So there's a really strong understanding of cohesion, which is no surprise because they've all been making badass music for a long time, but there's a really strong use, I should say. There's a strong use of cohesion with all of these ambient sounds and these chugging moments that came in later. We got pretty far through the album before things got riffy, like 4 or 5 minutes in, maybe 2 or 3 minutes in. Also, Johnny's doing a lot of really awesome Johnny stuff. I love the way how he will like close down on an E or an oo vowel and push that little bit of extra air through it to make it sound really driving, really powerful. It's interesting to hear them in this sort of space because their music generally has like a lot of like that, like, their music, they take their music very seriously, and there's also room for pop culture references and stuff. And so far there's the Kylo Ren quote, I know what I need to do, but I don't have the strength to do it, or something like that. Which again, kudos to Johnny for his articulation, for his intelligibility. I feel like I understood most of the lyrics there. And I know he's a big lyrics guy, so that makes sense. But yeah, I have more I could say. I could keep it there, but this feels like a new vibe for Carcosa. From what I understand, about this being a more vulnerable album. I think it was on Reddit that I saw him mention something. This makes sense. This makes sense. So let's go ahead. Let's keep going here. This is Pickering Street. So far, we've got some locations. We've got Proscenium. I don't know what that is. Acacia Crescent. That sounds like a cul-de-sac that you might live on. Pickering Street sounds like a street. Next song is Corey Place. That sounds like an address. I don't know. Let's keep going.
It's your middle name. If it was up to you, you'd do it all again. Watch my love fade. Watch it crumble to dust. Slipping through your hands. This is loveless. Fuck.
These songs are short. Holy crap. What's the runtime on this? So I got the album from Amazon Music and then made this little video. 32 minutes. Okay. Wow. Goodness, there's some really interesting panning. I don't know if it's panned double tracks or if it's single. Well, I mean, okay, there are multiple vocal tracks here for sure, but I don't know if they've got like three, like for the mids, 3 mids and then one in the middle, one hard right and one hard left, or if they've got like a widener and they're really cranking that widener on there. I'm not sure. I'm not super into audio production, so I couldn't tell you. But there's some really interesting things they're doing with panning where, you know, his mid will be the main, Johnny's mid will be the main, and then they've got some panned, you know, highs, but then those highs kind of slide in and become the main vocal. Really cool. There's a lot of really smart vocal layering here. You know, there's a lot more going on than just like, oh, let's stack vocals and make them sound cool, which that's fine, by the way. But yeah, there's they've got a very complex stew right now, but without the flavors fighting each other. And that's very cool. I forgot to give these ratings. This is tough because these songs are built to be together. So it's not an album of individual songs. So it's hard to rate them individually because I feel like I just listened to a 7-minute song. I feel like I listened to one 7-minute song that, like, if I take Proscenium out of the context of Acacia Crescent or Pickering Street out of the context of Acacia Crescent, like it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? So, but one thing I'm really enjoying about these is that they're demanding that I pay attention. I can't sit here and be the goofy YouTuber. I have to like really lean in and listen because there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And that's something I really like. My favorite music tends to force me to sit very still. Like the Arrival soundtrack, Johan Johansson. Oh, you can't listen to that album and not turn into stone. Or that soundtrack. Man, this is tough. I'm gonna give these 3 tentative 8s. Feels like maybe that might be a little, I don't know. This is hard. I'm gonna give them tentative 8s. That's high. I've never had an album in my life be a 10 with few exceptions. Let's keep going. Oh yeah, I pulled in the music videos too. I did that for the Shadow of Intent. So I am into this mix. And again, I don't know anything about audio production, not really. But you know, I've been a musician for a long time. And I know what I like. And I really like this mix. Some mixes draw you in because they're bad. And so you're like struggling. You're like, God damn it, I just want to hear what the bass is doing, or I just want to know what the kicks are doing. But with this, I feel like this mix feels like a very this mix feels like almost like an art gallery. Which, by the way, just because you know I know Johnny and I've had many conversations with him, don't think I'm just being nice to be nice, right? He and I have had a couple conversations about how critical feedback is important. So if I think a song sucks in this album, I will say it because I know he would want me to say it. We've talked about that before, but like, so I'm not just being nice to be nice. But this mix feels very much like an art gallery, right? And what I mean is, like, when you go into an art gallery that's well curated, well put together, you wander around because everything is drawing you towards it, and there's so many interesting things to see. I never feel lost in this mix, which is very cool. I also love how Johnny's going back and forth between a bright and up. Now I don't do vocals the same way he does, but he's doing like he'll do his guttural stuff, but he'll also like he'll be up there. And then I don't know what weird he said, but he said like say, but instead of saying say, he said say, we say. And I love when metal vocalists bend around syllables. Listen, just because you have a word that's spoken with one syllable doesn't mean that you can't add 4 to make it sound cool. Anyways, let's keep going.
You brought me so now it's time to live. Whatever replaying over and over again.
Ooh, interesting ending on that bell tone. That's interesting. Like a church bell or something. That's really fascinating. I wonder what that's about. I wonder what that's about. That's fascinating. So that song's there's the single right there. There's the single right there. Some very cool moments in that. I love that heavy moment, and I love a lot of the things that Johnny's doing with his voice, and also like huge shout out to the guitars. Andrew's a great guitarist. Andrew's a phenomenal guitarist. He's been on YouTube longer than I have doing cool guitar stuff. Love the vocal. I will say that so if any of you, I'd be surprised if anybody's watching this and they've never listened to Carcosa. But if any of you follow Johnny, he's a very good singer. He's a quite accomplished clean singer as well. And I thought that his take in the vocal production was awesome. I didn't like super love the chorus melody. There's like legitimately nothing wrong with it at all, but it was just a little rock for me, great. The axe remain, the tree remembers. Ba-da-da-da. Like that's a very strong chorus. And if you want to write a chorus that the crowd is gonna like, I guarantee when I go on Sunday, if they play this song, which I'm sure they will, you're going to see people like pumping their fists and singing along. And for that, excellently written chorus. For my own personal preference of melody movement, not my favorite. Kind of drew me out of it a little bit, but everything surrounding it was super strong. A little peeled back on like the ambience and the contemplative nature. But this is a good time to do it. We're roughly halfway through the album. So bringing in some of the like crunchy heaviness that Carcosa is known for as a smart take. This is a pretty good song. 7 is too low, but I will. And again, when I'm rating these, I'm just talking about my own personal enjoyment of the song. I'm not talking about the quality of the song. I'd give that a 7.5 for my own personal enjoyment. I loved a lot about it, but I was like so seduced by the first 4 tracks and their ambience, and then I'm just not a big fan of like those types of melodies. But I do think that live, and I do think on the album, it's going to be a tremendously effective melody. I think that a lot of people are going to chant along with it. So not a bad song by any. 7.5. 7 seems too low. 8 seems too high. Even 7.5. You know what? This is my rating system. We're going to go 7.6. It's my rating system. I do what I want. Great song. Let's keep going. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This kind of reminds me of Halo 3 ODST soundtrack a little bit. Ooh, nice swell. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, we have to talk about that. We have to talk. That's a fucking 9. That's a 9. That's a 9. It's a transition track, but that's a 9. Oh man, that was sick. That was sick. So it reminded me a little bit of Halo ODST. And I just played through a bunch of the Halo games. Right now I'm playing Final Fantasy Tactics Ivalice Chronicles. But prior to that, while I was waiting, I just was busting through the Halo games. And ODST, I think, has my favorite soundtrack. So that's neither here nor there. But like this song, like listen, this song is exactly what I was talking about. Like an art gallery. There was nothing that I couldn't hear. Everything was placed exactly where it should be. We had these little tiny strings in and out, right? We had what sounded like maybe one line of singing in the back. We had we had like these little swells. It sounded like there was and listen, I could be wrong about all this stuff, right? But there was what sounded like a little bit of a high pass filter opening up on the guitars a little bit, maybe a little bit, but like getting brighter, like progressively, but not intrusively, right? That was like super. I wouldn't be surprised if that short little track they took a ton of time on. I'm really impressed because the only thing I ever mix are my own vocals. And even then, if we're talking, and not even in Kardashev, just for like my own fun. Just for my own fun. There's no way I'm mixing the vocals in Kardashev. I don't want that kind of responsibility. Wow, that was phenomenal. Like, that was phenomenal. I don't know anything about mixing, but god dang. Oof. Give me 10 minutes of that. Ooh. That was good. Let's keep going though. Wowzers. And then this like pulsing swell. Oh, shut up. Shut up. Yes.
Oh, bacon fleeting. Are these memories I once knew? But these tears I drew remind me of you.
Nice.
So I have hindsight now. I see clearly.
Yeah.
I look back at what could
Oh, whoa.
I'm weak and weary, complacent in her arms, again and again and again. Facing head on, I can't be strong. Forced to leave here, have to find my way. The path behind me fades away. So I have hindsight now. I see clearly. But I look back at what could be. You had it all. You're feeling alone. Push your strength in a way. Just out on a run. Why fight to grow when it comes to know? Staying home is a feeling. You resource within. I've come this far, don't look back. I'm slipping through the cracks. What stays the same, but my reflection will change. We had it all till you threw it away. So
Ah.
have hindsight now. I see clearly. Now I look back at what could have been.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a 9. That's a 9. That's a 9. No question. No question. So there are, again, I'm going to save the long review for the end, but there are a couple things I really love about that. First and foremost, you know, did I love the melody on The Axe Forgets? Wasn't my favorite. Did I love the melodies on that song? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. And he's doing something really smart. He's doing something really smart. So that song, the music, the rhythm section is thick. It's syrupy, right? It's dare I say unctuous. And so we have him really kind of cranking the brightness of his voice, not too much, but he's like, you know, so I have hindsight clearly, hindsight clearly. Hey, there's a lot of brightness on his voice. Yeah. He's doing that. And that's really, I cannot express how, if you're out there and you're an aspiring vocalist, it's not just about singing the notes. It's not just about having the right emotion. It's about understanding what's going to cut through. And yeah, you can use an EQ to cut help you cut through. Yeah, but it's important to put something good in the mic. And that's really smart. Also, really good use of lifting the voice up into this space, into the mask, right? Because oftentimes, like, he could have gone falsetto. If he wanted to go a little higher, he goes really high at the end. He could have gone more like lighter head voice, but I feel like this album has a lot of grounded weight to it. And that's the thing, like with this album, they're clearly telling, like, he's clearly telling a story. He's clearly telling a story. There's no question about it, right? And it's a very personal story. And so it feels, I mean, we've got a tree, we've got roots, we've got sap, we've got wounds, we've got injury, right? And so to keep those chords closed will accentuate, right? It's going to accentuate that. So what I'm getting at here, and then I'll shut up. But you know, he lifts into his voice by keeping the chords together, opening up, and accentuating the space. Right now, I don't remember the melody, but you can hear that with right. Oh, keeping those chords connected. Excellent work. I really got to pee, so I'm going to go do that. And then we're going to listen to 1983. Dude. Track 6 and 7? Those tracks, fuck. I'll be right back. All right, 1983. Maybe that's the year Johnny was born. I don't know. But let's check it out.
To
Oh, oh, this album's slidey. Okay, so just a couple quick thoughts. One thing that was a banger. That's probably going to be an 8 again for sure. So one thing that I really like about Johnny as a vocalist, again, because this is a primarily vocal channel, that's what I have the most to comment on, is that, you know, I can't remember maybe it was Vermin, I don't remember, but I had him on the channel and we had this conversation about how he's a big fan of hip hop, right? And rap music. And, you know, I'm not saying like, oh, it just sounds like rap patterns, right? But, you know, it's very interesting because, and this is a trap that I fall into sometimes, is when you have a pick pattern. Now, I don't remember the pick patterns that Andrew's doing here, you know, that the guitars are doing here, but like, let's say you have a pick pattern that's like dum 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 dum. It's really easy to, yes, be like syncopated, yes, have like a polyrhythmic approach to it, but still be like you're basically dum 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 dum. You're basically still just doing like dotted quarter notes, dum 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 dum, and so it still feels very like with the song, but he is doing these interjected patterns, but he like doesn't tend to fall in the same way that the guitars fall, so it adds to that drawn in vibe, right? He's not just like, oh, I'm just, you know, doing, you know, a vocal pattern on there that's really followable. I'm not describing what I'm saying very well. Here's a really good example. It's not the same thing, but this is a really good example. I think it was the drummer of Meshuggah who one time said that when he's drumming, he tries to make sure as much as possible that a kick and a snare don't hit at the same time. And obviously, if you want to talk about interesting patterns, Meshuggah is a band that will allow you to do that, right? And so I feel like Johnny has this similar approach of like, I'm going to be really cohesive with these guitars. I'm going to be really on point and in the pocket of this music, but I'm not just going to follow the pattern of what the guitars are doing. And I'm not just going to offset what the guitars are doing. I'm going to move in and out of them strategically, which is really cool. And it was also, you know, I've heard Andrew's screams a couple times in the album so far, but it's cool how forward they are, because he's got this very like pitched, almost like light and smooth distortion, head voicey scream that has gotten progressively stronger as the band has gone on. So very cool song. I'd give that a strong 8. I almost want to give that a 9 as well, but I don't know if I'm just riding the high of hindsight. You know what I'm saying? Whoa. Hindsight's 2020. Or is hindsight a 9? I don't know. It is a 9. Let's keep going. I want to hear that transition into Fade again, because that was stinky. Oh, nice.
Your absence makes us feel again. I've longed for this day to come. When I saw your putrescent presence, the stage alone makes it pale skin from bone. You can leave well enough alone. See, I want your face. For your presence of time is goodbye. I want your face. It will wash the light, leave your eyes. You approach as the clocks from sinking. But the sea is sleeping. I want your face. For the life let's say goodbye. I want your face. The light dissipating from your sunken eyes. When you can clock as your stars beat. Running aside with me. I want your face. I just wanna be free of this pain. I want your face. So I want to be the one to break the chain. For they will die with me. I want your
Oh. It's a crime. It's almost a crime to pause between these songs. But if I just play the album the whole way through, that's how you get videos taken down. Even this one's a little risky, but that song was pretty solid too. There were some moments where I found myself like in those like those chug patterns, just kind of like getting a little distracted by things on my desk and stuff, which like if you're an ADHD boy like me, that's how you know. Like you'll be like, your brain will start to wander, but right when that would happen, they'd pull it back in. They'd pull it back in with something, either a change of the pattern, or Andrew would come in and do a vocal, or there was something. So there were times where the song would start to just very gently lose me, but then I would come back. I think my favorite part of that song is how Johnny, I don't remember the pattern, but he's doing his Johnny highs, which I don't do them the same way, but like that, right? So he's doing these really fast highs, and then like they kind of slow down. Again, I heard it for the first time, so I don't have it memorized, but he's doing like this, like, and that like was a really cool moment. I really liked that. Let's listen to Lake Country. Let's do it. You guys suck. God, you Carcosa dudes with your perfectly blending songs. I'm being silly, obviously. That song was very good. That song was very good. I love the slides in and out of these pitch screams. I love the slides in and out of this pitch screams. I love the ambience. There was one transition that felt really jarring for me, and initially I was kind of irritated by it, but then they came back into like, it wasn't a key change, but it was like a vibe change of ambience. And when that happened, I was like, okay, that was actually quite strategic, because if they had just done ambience all the way through, it would not, that switch of ambience wouldn't have been impactful. And also, when you're dealing with putting, so the band that I do, that I'm the vocalist for, Kardashev, we do a lot of ambient stuff. And actually, it's interesting, they're using guitars similarly to how we do, in one particular way, which is that there are these really reverbed out, really far back guitars moving, and they're not a melody that you hear, but they just sort of guide the undercurrent of the song. I don't know if this is a Kardashev term or not, but we call them subby guitars, because they're like subliminally influencing you to feel the song in a certain way, and they're like sub or below the surface. And there's a lot of really good use of that. And so now I actually came to appreciate that harsh transition. It was very jarring, but it was clearly quite strategic, or at least it felt strategic to me. A lot of really good movement. We're still going to talk about this album art, because the longer I stare at it, the more interesting it is. We're going to talk, I'll probably save that for the end, but allora, let's listen to Curtains. Hmm. Hmm. Wow. That outro was that was insane. That was really very well. That put me into like full brain turn off mode. Um and that's like my favorite thing. If a song can make my brain just shut off and I kind of don't remember what just happened. Like I can't really talk to you about the last half of that song because in a way I don't remember it. But I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a very good way. Like I like it turned off every analytical muscle I have in my head and I just like it kind of just like washed. Very cool. That gets a 9.5. That gets a 9.5. No question. Super good. Wowzers. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna give that a 10. Am I gonna give that a 10? I'm gonna give that a 9.75. It's really hard to get a 10 out of me. Um, Wowzers. You know what? Screw it. Let's do it. Go with your gut. Go with your gut. It's gonna get a 10. Really good ending of the album. I'm so glad that the runtime of this is now. Listen, I love a good long album. I love a good long song, but for this type of music, for this type of like deathcore, I think it's really important to be concise. I think brevity is important, and I think that yeah, we get that. We get that here. Really excellent. Really excellent. Um, Man, I dig that outro a lot. Such a wide open space. Such a impactful uh use of ambience and texture and tone and color. Really quite good. Really very strong album. Very strong album. I like that quite a bit. Okay, let me rein my brain in. You know what? This is a good time to talk about the album artwork. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and let's do that. So I have it here and I'll pull it up so we can kind of see it a little bit closer. So this is very how can I do this? How can I do this? I don't know how I can do this. I know how I can do this. Let's just go bam. Okay, so this is really interesting album artwork. So if we're talking about, I've heard variants of this phrase before. The axe forgets, the tree remembers. And again, I don't really know fully the content of the album, but it's usually a phrase that is used, or similar phrases are used to talk about somebody who causes damage. The person who caused the damage oftentimes moves past it. They don't really feel much in retrospect, and yet the person who was damaged lives with that and feels it for a very long period of time. And so what we have here is this tree that doesn't have any leaves. There's no foliage on this tree. What we have is these gnarled, hard, rugged, rough branches and this root that is all wound up, almost like this really like knotted scar tissue, right? And we have these cuts, these wounds basically on the tree, you know, dripping sap, like these open wounds. Like not only has the axe forgotten and moved on, but the axe is doing fine, right? It's got this beautiful spotlight. We've got this beautiful green patch. The only green in the entire album is where the axe is. And yet the tree is still like living with these wounds, right? It also is interesting because the tree is like sort of like the roots are around the axe. The tree is sort of like, it looks like the tree is sort of hovering over the axe. And is it like an aggressive stance, or is it like this almost like protective stance, is there a certain difficulty in having someone in your life that you resent but you also still are attached to? A lot of this album has allusions, the music video to The Axe Forgets, the Tree Remembers, to a very difficult father. And thankfully I had a great dad, but I know people who have unfortunately had very difficult dads, and this is a great reminder to me to try my best to be as good of a dad as I can. Because I have a son. He's 3, so he tests my patience. But oftentimes people will talk to me about, like, they'll say, yeah, it's like my dad was awful, and yet there's still part of me that wants him to be proud of me and stuff. So maybe like that's what the posture of this tree is trying to say. We've also got like these apples that, again, he says the line, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and these apples have fallen. They've been sitting there for a while and they're rotten, but they also can't go away, right? These apples have not rotted into the tree to nurture it, right? Because that's what would happen. Like an apple would fall from the tree and then it would decay, and the decaying apple would actually feed the tree. Nothing, that's not happening here, right? What does that symbolize? Hell if I know. And then also, interestingly, we've got, I believe these are cypress trees and these winding paths, and that's something that you very much associate with Italy, right? Or at least I do, like Tuscany, right? My wife and I went to Italy back, I believe it was in 2016. One of the best trips I've ever been on. Love Italy, highly recommend. No surprise, the food's phenomenal. I would keep American pizza over Italian pizza any day though. Hot's my hot take. But like there were a lot of spots, especially when we were driving, because we did like a very touristy, like Rome, Venice, or Rome, Siena, Venice. I don't remember. Rome, Siena, Florence, Venice. Maybe that was it. But driving, you see a lot of these things, and Johnny has talked very much about his Italian heritage, right? I was going to say Italian American, but he's Canadian. And how that was a big part of his upbringing too, the Italian roots, right? And we have roots here. So I don't, I'm not going to try to say this artwork has helped me figure out everything that's going on, but it's very intentional, right? I think album art on metal album covers is usually kind of like, it's really cool, but it's kind of whatever. But this is very thoughtful, and I think that this is a good example of what this album is. Incredibly thoughtful. We've got an insanely there's a lot of care in the production of this album. It's not just like, oh, this would sound cool. It's like, this would sound beautiful, or this would sound inviting, or this would be a sound that would pull people in very powerfully. And so I think I'm gonna say it. I've listened to Carcosa's entire discography, and I like their entire discography. Of course, some songs I like more than others, but I was excited to review this album because I like Carcosa. I think they're a good band, and I think this is their best album, no question. Like, they don't have an album I dislike, but like this for sure. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below, but this is absolutely their best album, no questions asked. I love that they cut it at 32 minutes. I love that they didn't go overboard in the length. Some of my favorite albums are over an hour long, but this one didn't need to be that, and they understood it, and they did super well. The only things that I didn't like on the album were just points of preference, really. Not like bad production, not bad songwriting, not bad vocal technique, whatever that would be. And so the whole thing is really good. If you like, you absolutely should, like, you should go see these guys. They're on tour right now. If you're at the show here in Arizona and you see me, feel free to say hey. Hello. Don't give me COVID though. I got COVID at the Larcenia Row Oceano tour. That sucked. Yeah, I am very excited to see some of these songs live. I really hope they do Hindsight. Ooh, I hope they do Hindsight, and I hope they do Curtains as well. What a great, and Curtains closing the album. Yeah, like this is not, these homies didn't just sit down and write cool deathcore for the sake of writing cool deathcore. They wrote a very artistic album, and I said this with some of the recent Lorna Shore stuff, but this is the sort of thing. This type of music is, even though deathcore is not like my main favorite genre, this is the sort of stuff that when people who are grognards and they hate deathcore on principle, when they're like, oh, there's just no thought or emotion to it, I'm like, shut up. Like, that is just not true. Like, there is plenty of really thoughtful stuff. So excellent album, absolutely love it. The Axe Forgets, the Tree Remembers by Carcosa. Pick up a copy, buy a shirt, go see these guys on tour, support good artists, support musicians. Many thanks, much love, I'm out. That's a fucking killer album.